Iran has publicly rejected the US's offer of negotiations over its nuclear program, but for the country's clerical leaders, hammering out a new deal with the US and easing sanctions may be the lesser of two evils. Despite a deep distrust in the US, Tehran is increasingly concerned that public anger over economic hardships could erupt into mass protests. That's according to Iranian officials, who also say that behind closed doors there's a willingness to strike a new deal with Washington. Officials are concerned about cutting off all diplomatic avenues. They fear it might further fuel public discontent against Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. President Masoud Pezeshkian has also repeatedly expressed anxiety about the economy, stating that the situation now is more challenging than during the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s.
It is a step away from the specter of conflict.
Iran's weak economy pushed it to back the 2015 nuclear deal, leading to the lifting of Western sanctions and an improvement in economic conditions. But President Donald Trump pulled out of the agreement in 2018 and reinstated US sanctions.
Can't let him have a nuclear weapon.
Now he wants to renegotiate the deal to prevent the country's development of nuclear weapons. In order to force Iran's hand, Trump has now introduced new sanctions on Iran's oil industry as part of his so-called maximum pressure campaign. But Khamenei has publicly rebuffed Trump, saying Iran will not be bullied into negotiations. Iran's rulers are also facing a string of other crises, including energy and water shortages, a collapsing currency, and growing fears of an Israeli strike on its nuclear facilities. The Iranian rial has shed more than 90% of its value against the dollar since sanctions were reimposed in 2018, and official inflation hovers around 40%. What's more is that based on Iranian state media reports, there were at least 216 demonstrations across Iran in February. The protests are largely focused on economic hardships, including low wages and months of unpaid salaries, according to the reports. Iran has staved off economic collapse largely thanks to China, the main buyer of its oil and one of the few nations still trading with Tehran despite sanctions.